Many of you remember the movie Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I was about 12 when it came out. I did that math. That was painful. And it opened the door to my love for adventure films, especially adventure films starring Harrison Ford. In the movie, Indy, as he is known, is on a quest to find his father, who's seeking the Holy Grail, the chalice that Jesus apparently used at the Last Supper. Of course, Indy is running from some bad people. In this movie, it's Elsa and Donovan, who follow him right into the temple of the Holy Grail. And as they enter the chamber of the Grail, they find a multitude of cups. But only one was the true Grail, which would bring life. And specifically, at the time, Indy's dad was injured, and so it saves his life. Donovan, not trained in history, foolishly asks Elsa to choose a Grail for him. And she picks the most ornate and costly cup, bedazzled with jewels. And when Donovan drinks from it, he realizes too late that he has chosen poorly. The true Grail was a simple cup, humble, unadorned, a stark reminder that authenticity often lies in the ordinary. We live in a world where we are trained to perceive greatness in very particular terms. Greatness is bedazzled, it's costly. Greatness is distinguished. Greatness is an acquisition of status. Greatness equals bigger, and bigger is always better. Bigger is better in our ideas, in our aspirations, in our possessions. Greatness is often associated with wealth and with status and with beauty and achievement. We are led to believe that to pursue greatness is a fundamental measure of self-worth. If we aren't striving for that next promotion or that newest gadget or more social media likes, we might feel that we are falling behind. We have entire systems based on greatness. We have economic systems dependent on always growing, always expanding, always getting bigger, always being greater. We have leadership strategies like Think Bigger, the Personal Greatness Project, Grow in Your Greatness. And let's not forget the sports industry, which includes the biggest athletes and the even bigger salaries that accompany them. We even have big, and may I also personally add, bad and terrible theologies, such as the prosperity gospel, which proclaims that wealth is a sign of God's favor. However, amidst all of this pursuit, we often overlook what truly matters. The simple, everyday blessings right there in front of us. Perhaps our homes aren't the largest, but we have a roof over our head. We might not have limitless resources, but our needs are met. In our quest for greatness, we can forget that the quiet joys that are revealed in our lives of God's grace. Let me say that again. We can forget the quiet joys that reveal God's grace in our lives. In this morning's gospel reading, we find Jesus and Peter, John, and James on a mountain to pray. They experience an extraordinary moment. Jesus is transfigured before them, glowing with divine light, conversing with Moses and Elijah. This is the moment that Peter and John and James come to the awe-inspiring realization that Jesus is the Son of God, the King of Kings. And they are also instructed to keep this revelation to themselves. Oftentimes, our Transfiguration text ends here. But this morning, our story continues. As we come down the mountain with the disciples, we learn that a young child is in need of healing. An only child who is seized by a spirit and causing them convulsions. And Jesus is asked to heal this child. The disciples tried to heal the kid, and they were unable. And to say the least, that Jesus was disappointed in them is an understatement. He's disappointed with their lack of faith. Everyone is then astonished at God's greatness displayed through Jesus in this act of compassion as Jesus is able to heal this child. Luke's gospel is all about seeing. Over and over, we hear stories about Jesus seeing what others do not. And what do people see in Jesus and say who he is? In this story, we are told that the glory of God is seen. And high up on the mountain, yes, but that is not the only place that God's greatness is recognized in our story. Do we have to go to the mountaintop or a pillar on a cloud high in the heavens? Do we have to hear from a voice in the heavens to know that God's greatness is amongst us? Must we have a vision? Or do we discover that off the mountain, in the depths of our communities, among those who are hurting and in need of healing, that God's greatness is also found? At my ordination sermon, the sermon given was a challenge for me and for everyone present to have a kind of vision in ministry that can see things close up and far away. I was encouraged to have nearsightedness and farsightedness, to see close up those who are not seen or heard or who are too easily forgotten, as well as to have farsightedness, to understand the bigger picture items. This kind of sight has little to do with our eyes, because seeing isn't just about our eyes. And for some of us here, we will say, praise be. If someone responds with the phrase, oh, I see, they're saying, oh, I understand. Oh, I see your perspective. Because seeing is also about a vision, and a vision that comes from listening and comes from hearing different perspectives and understanding and compassion and removing our ego and removing our biases and being willing to pay attention, to see in a different way. And perhaps this is where the true transfiguration occurs. Not just in moments of glory, but in our everyday encounters. In our world today, we witness the need for healing on many fronts. I think about our mental health crisis and the social injustices and loneliness that people are feeling and the effects of a polarized nation. As we engage with these challenges, we are invited to see God's presence in the struggles and successes of everyday life. Healing healing can come not only from miraculous acts, but from simple compassion and listening and understanding. This week, we enter into Lent, and we are called to cultivate opportunities to listen and to reflect. We're encouraged to examine what we might be missing in our faith lives and how we can transform our vision, our perspective. During this 6-week journey, may we open our eyes to the often overlooked places where God thrives, the uncomfortable conversations, the new experiences that challenge our assumptions, and among those who are marginalized. The call this Lent is to seek God's greatness, not just in the obvious places, high up on a mountain or in some grand sanctuary, but also in the day-to-day moments of life that reveal God's divine presence everywhere. This journey of transfiguration, both personal and communal, invites us to recognize the richness of our spiritual lives hidden in the simplicity of shared humanity. How might we be transfigured this Lenten season? Where will we see the greatness of God? May we embrace the challenge to look beyond the surface and discover the blessings that await us in both the mundane and the miraculous. May it be so.